You sit down at your desk, tell yourself it's time to work, and expect your brain to instantly drop into a state of deep concentration. But the human nervous system doesn't operate on a light switch. Focusing is a physiological state, and like an intense physical workout, it requires a deliberate warm-up. To actually lock your attention onto a task, you have to follow a specific biological sequence. We will walk through the exact steps to execute a perfect 90-minute Ultradian deep work cycle. Think of human concentration as an arrow. To hit a target, that arrow relies on 3 specific neurochemicals. First, you need the shaft of the arrow to provide rigid structure. That is epinephrine, or adrenaline, which creates raw alertness. Next, you need the arrowhead to pierce the exact target. That is acetylcholine, which acts as a spotlight for your attention. Finally, you need an engine to keep the arrow moving forward. That is dopamine, which sustains your motivation over time. Before you can pick up this arrow, you need to set the physical baseline. Pick a single, clear task. Grab a timer, keep your headphones nearby, and ensure you are getting sufficient sleep at least 80% of the time. Sleep modulates every process in your brain and body. Without it, the chemicals required for focus cannot be deployed. When you are properly rested, executing this neurochemical sequence is the most reliable way to command your own attention. Step 1 is the biological primer. Before you look at your work, you have to build the shaft of the arrow by flooding your brain and body with epinephrine. People often assume stress destroys concentration. In reality, a brief spike of acute stress raises adrenaline, which physically narrows your visual field and improves your cognitive performance. One of the most efficient ways to trigger this stress response is deliberate cold exposure. Getting into uncomfortably cold water for 1 to 5 minutes releases a massive wave of adrenaline that primes your nervous system for hard work. If cold water isn't an option, the secondary method is caffeine. A standard dose of 100 to 200 milligrams from a source like yerba mate or coffee increases alertness and amplifies your dopamine receptors. If this is your first dose of the day, delay that caffeine intake until 90 to 120 minutes after waking up to avoid an afternoon crash. Whether you choose an ice bath or a cup of coffee, creating this baseline of chemical agitation is a strict requirement. You have to wake the brain up before you can ask it to focus. Step 2 is the neurological warm-up. Now that you have the adrenaline shaft, you need to sharpen the arrowhead by driving acetylcholine directly to your prefrontal cortex. Put on your headphones and play 40 Hz binaural beats for exactly 5 minutes. This specific frequency pattern helps synchronize deep brain centers and signals your nervous system to start paying attention. While those beats play, you will use a secondary tool, the visual focus drill. Pick a single physical target on the wall or your desk. Stare directly at it. You are allowed to blink, but the moment you feel your eyes drift away, force your gaze right back to that spot. Hold this concentrated visual lock for 30 seconds to a maximum of 3 minutes. As you stare at that target, your visual field will naturally narrow into a tunnel. Your cognitive focus follows your visual focus. By actively controlling exactly where your eyes point, you force the brain's mental spotlight to sharpen onto a single location. Step 3 is executing the work bout. Turn off the binaural beats, set your timer for 90 minutes, and begin your task. Expect the first 5 to 10 minutes to feel difficult. This is the transition friction. Your brain is still warming up. You will feel distractible, but you must push through. Throughout the session, you will experience the focus flicker. These are the inevitable moments when your attention suddenly drifts to your phone, a noise in the hall, or a random thought. When your mind wanders, catching that distraction and pulling your attention back to the work is the actual process of building focus. Every time you redirect your attention, you are completing a neurological repetition. A deep work session is dynamic. You do not stay in a flat line of concentration. You repeatedly drift and pull yourself back. Your brain operates on 90-minute Ultradian cycles. Because intense mental effort consumes massive energy, pushing focus beyond 90 minutes yields diminishing returns. Concentration is a dynamic effort of constant refocusing. Adopting this biological perspective is what allows you to complete the full 90-minute cycle without total cognitive burnout. Step 4 is deliberate decompression. The moment your 90-minute timer sounds, stop working immediately. For the next 10 to 30 minutes, you must release your tight visual focus. Do not look down at a smartphone screen. Do not read. You need to let your mind idle. Go for a walk, stare out a window, or wash the dishes. Engage in automatic, menial tasks that do not demand your concentration. Deep work depletes your neurochemical reserves. This active decompression phase is biologically mandatory to restore your brain's metabolic energy for any future deep work. If you feel a heavy sense of mental exhaustion after that session, you did it right. That fatigue is the biological proof that your metabolic focus engines were fully engaged. Because this process is so taxing, even highly trained individuals generally max out at 1 to 3 of these deep ultradian cycles per day. Tomorrow morning, block out your calendar, pick one critical task, and execute one perfect 90-minute session using this exact protocol. By stacking these specific physiological levers, spiking your adrenaline, sharpening your visual field, and cycling your rest, you no longer have to wait for motivation. You can manufacture deep focus on demand.